Hello everyone, welcome to my Week 2 game for the OGDL Season 2 Roaring Moon Division. This week I'm going up against Vinny, coach of the Syracuse Snivys. He's got a pretty fucked up team. He had the second pick overall, and he picked Deoxyspeed, which I was a big fan of it back in USM, and I think it was still bannable back in Gen 8, but now in Gen 9, I don't know. In Nat decks, it's definitely balanced. You might be able to even allow Terror on the thing. It's just pretty weak. But the fact that it's so fast means that it can run Bolt pretty much every time, which is really nice. I love that thing. It's got a luxury speed tier, which is really cool. It's also got an Omniterra Iron Moth, Rotom Wash, Hydreigon, Mega Aggron, Togekiss, Breloom, Zygarde 10, Pyroar, Tinkaton, Jumpluff. So those top 6 are very, very centralizing. I feel like he could definitely bring just the top 6 all season and have a cohesive, great team that's very flexible every week. The Iron Moth I fully expect to be Terra Grass or Water this week because it's otherwise destroyed by Palafin. And yeah, Rotom Wash is a really good Palafin answer. Hydreigon pivots around. It's probably going to be Scarfed or Specs this week. Breloom can come. I mean, over any of the other like Togekiss or Rotom Wash. I feel like Aggron has to come. And because Aggron has to come, he should probably bring Wish on his Togekiss. So it might be Wish Protect, Baton Pass, and like Air Slash, Dazzling Gleam, some kind of stab move. It could be a Wish Pass. It could be a Wish Protect T-Wave Air Slash set because like Aggron is bulky enough that it can come in and take the Wish anyway and live like any hit. So there's a lot of ways in which he could approach this game. The bottom 4 I don't really expect to see. Tinkaton could come as a check to like Zam plus Toxtricity and switch. It can switch into Ninetales pretty much perfectly. So that like has a slight possibility of coming to this game, but I don't think so. I think he's going to bring Aggron, and it's going to pretty much be enough. And Jumpluff and Pyroar aren't coming. And Zygarde I really don't think has a strong matchup into my team. I think offensively I pressure it, and my bulk takes hits enough to the point where it's like I have a Tinglu, I have an Alola Ninetales that gets a defense boost. I have a Moltres that he'd have to run Stone Edge for because otherwise... Bandit Thousand Arrows can break through it, but you risk... If you lock yourself into like E-Speed, or if you click E-Speed, then it's a problem. It's really good into like Toxtricity and Alakazam, but still, besides that, like Ferrothorn, Tinglu, and Ninetales are all bulky enough and can all do a shit ton of damage or kill it back. And yeah, Annihilate just kind of sits on it, and Jet Punch is a problem for the DD sets. So the matchup I think I've talked about enough for the first 3 minutes. Basically, I am worried the most about the Iron Moth. The Aggron is going to be really annoying. Dio is probably going to be a setup set, and Hydreigon is Hydreigon. So I got my work cut out for me this game. So to begin, I brought a Max HP Ninetales, pretty much the same set as last week, just with moves changed out, obviously. I think I was Blizzard Moonblast week 1. I changed out Moonblast for Roar, and I think it has less bulk. I think the speed is there for... What's it called? The speed is there for... Hydra, it looks like? Or no, there's something above Hydra that it's for, I think. I think the speed's for Pyroar. Because I just wanted to cover all my bases, because it's not like the extra bulk was like good for like Zygarde, but I didn't expect it. So I figured outspeeding the Pyroar and maybe getting a Veil up in its face is going to be beneficial. I've got Roar on this set in case it's like an Iron Defense Body Press or like a Rock Polish Aggron. I can, if he sets up if he gets the setup move off, I can just roar him around and force out something else. Scare the Rotom out with Freeze Dry, get up a Veil on that. Baton Pass is just handy on this Mon every time. Like, if Veil Pass are just going to be the most common 2 moves on this. I don't think I'm really spoiling anything by saying that. And then Blizzard is just, like, really good into his team. Like, it's really good at aggressively hurting the Togekiss. If it is a Wish set, then the stalled recovery is kind of harder for it with the additional damage of Blizzard. So I felt like that was more rewarding. That plus the extra damage on Aggron coming in. It was just way more rewarding than the Freeze Dry chip onto Rotom. I just felt like Blizzard was a better click overall into his team than Freeze Dry was because of how weak this thing is. So yeah, next we have Tinglu. It is a mixed defensive set. This is designed to check about 5 Pokemon at once. It checks the Aggron, it checks the Hydreigon, it checks the Iron Moth, and it checks the Dio all in one slot. It can Ruination, the Togekiss down. I originally had Heavy Slam over Whirlwind, but I changed it to Whirlwind because of setup spam. Earthquake is pretty good into his team. Body Press would have been nice too, but yeah, like I said, 4-move slot syndrome. This thing is just Gliscor again, but it's like way bulkier and doesn't have U-turn or, Protect and Toxic Heal, which would be like crazy on this thing. If this thing had Poison Heal, this one would be Ubers. But yeah, these 4 moves are really good into his team. Like I said, it was pretty hard picking slots. And even though he has 3 ground immunities that are probably coming to this game, like I really think he's going to bring the top 6 or swap one of them out for Breloom. It's just like I couldn't really afford to run other moves. So Whirlwind and Ruination just caught the most things. Whirlwind was really good for like the Iron Defense aggron that I just talked about, especially with spikes down. Ruination chips down his levitators enough to the point where I felt comfortable, and then Earthquake was just a solid click into aggron plus Iron Moth plus DL. So yeah, and spikes, this is the only hazard mon I'm bringing to this game besides Annihilate, and I didn't want to run rocks on Annihilate, so I figured spikes benefited me way more than anything else here, way more than rocks would have, because like I said, half his team is probably going to be levitating. Half his team is probably going to be boots, even if half of it is levitating, and chipping down aggron is much more valuable to me than anything else. Next up, we have Tox. That was my dryer. Shift Gear, Overdrive, Boom Burst, Fire Punch. Fire Punch is there purely for the Tinkatuff if that shows up. I'm not going to get walled by that. It's just not going to happen. Sludge Wave didn't really help me with any extra calcs into anything. Because his fairy is weak to electric, which was definitely really nice. Boom Burst is spammable into his team, and Overdrive hits pretty much everything else. Throat Spray is good, Shift Gear. It's just kind of a normal Toxtricity set. Next up, we have Banded Palafin. This shouldn't be a surprise. His check is Rotom, which does get Pain Split again, but, it's Nat Deck, so it had Pain Split whether or not we were doing DLC 2, but, a couple close combats into a Fizdef Rotom, and that thing is suddenly not a check anymore. Maybe Rocks would have been better for that specific reason, but I decided to go with this. Next up, we have Minior, Shell Smash, 3 attacks. I went with Special because the coverage just hit everything. Acro probably would have been better, but I think just these 3 moves just hit everything on paper, and it was just really, really good into his team, because I definitely needed to bring Dazzling Gleam in case he brought the Zygarde. And finally, we have Terra Electric Annihilate. It's pretty straightforward. Terra Electric is a good neutral type into pretty much everything, and it blocks Thunder Wave from Togekiss, which was a big thing for me. I didn't want Annihilate getting fucking T-Wave flinched to death, so if I can stop part of that, then I will. Alright, let's move right into the game. As you can see, this motherfucker brought his top 6. He brought Deoxys, Rotom Wash, Iron Moth, Hydreigon, Togekiss, and Mega Aggron, and I think he brought them in drafted order. No, he switched them off and the Rotom around. But besides that, I think that is drafted order. So you can't see it, but the Iron Moth is Terra Fairy, which I thought was an interesting bring. It definitely takes care of Tinglu and Annihilate in one slot, but I definitely thought Grass was way more likely because it hits Palafin and Tinglu super effectively in one go, and it resists Jet Punch, which is really valuable for Moth. I can definitely see why he brought that, though. But yeah, I am going to elect to lead with my Palafin because I am looking at his team, and it's like he's either going to lead with Aggron or he could lead with Rotom. In that case, I just go hard Ninetales. If he leads with Aggron, I will flip turn out, get my boost, and then just go straight into Tinglu or Annihilate. And if he leads with Deoxys, then I will flip turn out anyway. So those are the 3 likely leads. If he leads with Hydreigon, I have contingency plans for that. My contingency plan is click close combat with Baby Finn, probably. I'll flip turn out on the Togekiss, and I don't think he's going to lead with Moth, because the booster set is pretty good into my team. Or if he specs, he could lead with it. I've got Tinglu for that instance. So I think Palafin just leads well into everything, even if it's obvious, as he is going to elect to lead with Deoxys. So Deoxys lead equals hazard click, so I'm just going to go straight for the flip turn and go into my Tinglu. If he does Psycho Boost me, I live anything that isn't specs, I'm pretty sure. So I just decided to flip turn because I have balls and a sack. He does get up his rocks, so that makes me think that it is an Iron Defense Body Press Aggron, which is a huge threat. I'm gonna go Tinglu because I want to bait out the taunt. I feel like if he does taunt and I catch him with an Earthquake, then I'm in a good spot, and I kill this Deoxys before I can get up spikes. And I didn't bring any removal. I don't have very much removal on my draft, so getting rid of these spikes, preventing him from getting spikes up is going to be very, very, very crucial to my game plan. So I will click Earthquake, and thankfully I do catch him on the taunt, and I knock out his Deoxys, which is really, really good for me. Already off to a good start. Limiting the Deoxys to 1 layer. Rotom comes out. I bring in Ninetales because I really don't have another Wisp Absorber. But he actually just goes straight for the pump, which is actually better for me because I can get up my Veil as he volts out. So out comes the Moth. Ninetales is already at 27%. This mon, I can really stress the fact that I don't like that this Pokemon is my Fairy type, but it has been very, very, very synergistic with my team so far. So I have my problems with the Pokemon itself, but it has definitely provided a lot of value to my team, as it will here, as it just kind of completely stuffs the Iron Moth. As you can see, Fire Dance doing 4% total. He switches into his Togekiss. It's very obvious that he has to switch out. He has no counterplay to it whatsoever with the Veil up, so I just go for the Ruination on the Togekiss coming in, and then trying to dodge a Thunder Wave. I bring in my Toxtricity. I'm trying to take advantage of a Thunder Wave or just some sort of click that won't really touch me. I go into my Toxtricity because I can pretty much handle anything this does. And I go ahead and I click Overdrive as the Aggron comes in, and this being fucking dead is huge. I get my boost, and looking at his team, if I shift geared right there, or actually not right there, but in front of this Hydreigon, I could have potentially won the game on the spot. But I didn't want to risk him being an Assault Vest Hydreigon into it killing me with Earth Power. If he was Assault Vest, I could just get the Boom Burst damage straight up. Although looking back in hindsight, even if he Earth Powered me, if I get the Shift Gear off and he is Assault Vest, it's going to be all the damage I'm going to get anyway because he's going to outspeed me. So hindsight's 2020. I do Boom Burst as he Dark Pulse. I thankfully dodge the flinch, and I kill his Hydreigon in one hit. So I'm pretty certain that that was Scarf. Rotom comes out. I go for the Boom Burst. He lives on 1%, and Hydro Pump doesn't quite do it. So I'm going to be able to kill the Rotom and knock him down to 2, make it a 2v6. So Moth is going to come out, but this thing is going to provide some sort of big roadblock because I could go into Tinglu here, but Togekiss is just a free switch in every time, and I don't want to risk a double because if I go Tinglu and use that as a pivot to bring in like Annihilate and Terra, for example, he could very easily just stay in and click like Fiery Dance or Energy Ball or Dazzling Gleam or Psychic or anything that could catch my Annihilate coming in, because he's on the back foot so far that that kind of play is just unnecessarily risky. So I decided to go into Minior to try and get some guaranteed chip. If this is where Acro would have been really good, because he's going to Terra Fairy, he's going to Terra Blast me down to the Shields down range, and I'm going to Shell Smash. And I do believe that Acro from a physically invested Minior would have just OHKO'd this, and I would have been able to take out the Togekiss. But my strongest move to hit this is Power Gem, and it only does 69 because Moth is fat on the special side. So I go into this, go for the Jet Punch, knock this out. Out comes the Togekiss, and just to avoid T-Wave shit, I just go into Ninetales to try and, dodge it, and I bring it out. He goes for Dazzling Gleam, kills me, and I bring in Annihilate to come in revenge and Wave Crash. So down goes the Togekiss. Jet Punch may have killed him if he wasn't Fizz Death, but I didn't want to take any chances. And it's a nice 3-0 victory for me. So I moved it to an O plus 8, which is really nice. O played Divini. I think I did have a pretty good matchup going into this. The Minior could have potentially done it, but I think Toxtricity just put on way too much pressure. This was definitely the Toxtricity matchup. And unfortunately, this is going to be the only week Toxtricity has to shine. Him going 3-1 in his sole appearance, he definitely pulled like a Lars Ulrich or whatever the fuck. So I kicked him off. I kicked off Morgrem and Alakazam as well. Those two, Tox and Alakazam, definitely fit the team really well. But the guy who had Latias on his team dropped it, and that's the one I wanted from the start. So I ended up dropping those 3 because Morgrem's a bum. And I picked up Latias, which was 15 points, and Mega Beedrill, which was actually a budget 10-point mon. So going from here, I will have those 3 available to me, or those 2 available to me instead of the prior 3 Pokemon. So yeah, next week is against Nick19, coach of the Nick1_9 or Nicky9, I think is his name. I could be wrong. Baltimore Buzzwolves coach, and there's a Terra Gouging Fire, so you will all really love how that one goes. So yeah, take care. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.